Hello there, a very good evening. Welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And for the Newsfirst team, I'm Hashni Patharana. First up is a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
President meets rice businessman, says no plans on changing the controlled price on rice.
ආහාර වේල සාධාරණ මිලකට ලබා දිය යුතුයි. එහිදී සහල් මිල තමයි ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් ගැට ගැහෙන්නේ.
Dudley and Harsha lock horns on rice prices.
ආචාර්ය හර්ෂදී සිල්වා එයාගේ එක්ස්කියුනුමේ බලන්න කොයිතරම් තැනකට මේ විපක්ෂයේ ඡන්ද එකතු කරන්න වැටලා තියෙන තැන
මේ දවස්වල වී කිරන්නේ නැති නිසා ගබඩාවල තියෙන වී සහල් කිරීම සඳහා නිකුත් කරන්නේ යම් ප්‍රමාණයක්. ඕක තමයි අත්ත කතාව. ඩඩ්ලි මහත්තයා ගැන අපි කතා කරේ. ඔහු තමයි ප්‍රෙස් කොන්ෆරන්ස් එකක් තියලා කිව්වේ අපි පාඩුවට හරි වෙළඳපොළට සහල් නිකුත් කරන්න සූදානම් කියලා.
The Alvis Committee report referred to by Gamman Pillar was prepared for political reasons, will not accept the findings in the report. Ravi and Shani will not be removed. Cabinet spokesperson clarifies. Will not accept the Imam and Alvis Committee reports on the Easter Sunday attacks. Conduct a fair investigation, Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit stresses. Supreme Court permits the addition of Ranil Wickremesinghe as a respondent in the fundamental rights petition filed regarding an attack on protesters.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Taking a look at those stories in detail now, President Andrukumara Dissanayake said the controlled price of rice will not change. President Dissanayake made these remarks during a discussion held today at the Presidential Secretariat with rice millers and officials from the Department of Agriculture.
During the discussions, the President highlighted that plans are underway for a long-term program to create an organized agricultural plan that would provide greater benefits to farmers. The President noted to the rice millers that they had purchased paddy from farmers after the controlled price was established, and he believes it is unfair to alter the price of rice at this stage. Additionally, he stressed the necessity for a formal mechanism that ensures farmers receive a fair price for their rice while also enabling consumers to purchase rice at a reasonable cost. During the discussion, the issue of stock hoarders was addressed, and the President instructed agricultural officials to register this group.
විශේෂයෙන් වීකෝ විතනේදී තමුන්වන්සලගේ දායකත්වය අතිශය වැදගත්. ඒක
Your contribution is very important, especially in paddy cultivations. We need to implement an agricultural policy in order to create gains for the farmers. We need your support to carry this out. That is our long-term plan. But you have to consider the short run, as the livelihoods of farmers have fallen apart. Therefore, we need to provide them with meals at a fair price. We also need to prepare the facilities, provide meals at fair prices, and the major obstacle for this is the price of rice.
වශයෙන් අපි ආහාර වේල සාධාරණ මිලකට ලබා දිය යුතුයි. එහිදී සහල් මිල තමයි ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් ගැට ගැහෙන්නේ.
Following the meeting with the President, rice mill owner Dudley Sirasa expressed these views at a media briefing.
I was in agreement with this request since the beginning. Actually, there is no problem in making this request now, since this paddy is not in the hands of the farmers. Paddy is now in the hands of rice mills. Because of this, there is no problem in taking such a clear decision. This decision must be taken.
ගත යුතුමයි.
දැන් මේ අපි දැක්ක ජනාධිපතිතුමා පත්තුණු විකසම ඔබතුමා කිව්වා සහල් මිල අඩු කරනවා පාලන මිලකට දෙනවා අපි ඒ සිස්ටම් එකත් අපි වෙනස් කරන්නම් කියලා. දැන් එහෙම දෙයක් වෙලාද?
මම මේ ප්‍රකාශ කරලා දින කීපයක්.
Even though I announced it, the situation in the market continued for a few days. However, a number of main businessmen in the market implemented a collective decision to halt distribution. This resulted in a shortage of rice, leading to increased prices. Therefore, I informed the President about this.
දැන් මේ සමාජයේ යනවා මේ දඩි සිරිසෙන මහතා ජනාධිපතිතුමාට මේ බය වෙලාද මේ ටිකක් කියලාත් යනවා එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවා.
ඔව් මමත් ඒක දැක්කා. ඇත්තටම බයයි. මම නීතියට බයයි. නීතියට බය නැති.
Yes, I saw that as well. I am afraid of the law. The entire country witnessed what happened because of a system that was not feared. My plan is to fully support the president in enforcing the law in future.
එකඟ වෙලා මේ කටයුත්ත කරන්නයි මගේ ඉදිරි සැලැස්ම තියෙන්නේ.
දැන් හැබැයි ඉදිරි කතා හදයි විපක්ෂයේ මේ දඩි සිරිසෙන මහතයි ජනාධිපතිතුමයි ඩීල් එකක්.
දැන් අද දවසේ ආචාර්ය හර්ෂ ඩී සිල්වා එයාගේ එක්ස් ගිණුමේ
Yes, there are rumors already. Take a look at the ex-account of Dr. Harsha De Silva. Look at how far the opposition has gone to garner votes. His ex-account also has jokes concerning me and the price of rice. Take Tisat Tanayaka, the General Secretary of the SJB, as another example. He too keeps talking about this. Look at the former politicians who were responsible of the country. We need to oust the useless politicians who don't understand their responsibilities. That responsibility lies with the people. We will definitely do this.
ප්‍රජාව මේ රටේ ඉවත් කළ යුතුමයි. ඒක ජනතාවට බාරයි. ඒක අපි කොහොමාරි කරනවා.
Dr. Harsha De Silva also commented on this matter.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා මේ සහල් කතිපයාධිකාරිය අද පටන් ගත්ත එකක් නෙමෙයි. ඔබතුමා
President, this rice oligarchy did not start today. This rice oligarchy existed even when you were the Minister of Agriculture. Therefore, Mr. President, I will give you a small warning. You cannot play around with this issue. Here, we need to break this oligarchy. What needs to be done in order to do that? I saw the President say that in order to reduce the cost of production that the farmers incur, the cost of supply and fertilizer prices must be reduced. All of that is all right, but that is not the problem here. After purchasing the paddy, these big mill owners and selected large-scale farmers are storing the harvest. This happens almost every year. However, because paddy is not weighed these days, only a certain amount of paddy in those warehouses are released for producing rice. We talked about Dudley because he is the one who held the press conference and said that they are ready to release rice to the market even at a loss. So regardless of political differences, we came up with this problem under 3 presidents, but I will tell you what the solution to this is. The solution is small and medium-scale rice producers cooperatives. That is the Shakti Rice movement. It is the lack of competition in this market that has led this problem so far. If he wants, he can change the name Shakti Rice. I have no problem with that, but I am also on the side of the president in this matter.
වෙන නමකින් පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකට මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. නමුත් මම ඉන්නෙත් ඔබතුමාගේ පැත්තේ තමයි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේදී.
Cabinet spokesperson Minister Vijitha Herath revealed today that the ANG Alvis committee report that was referred to by former parliamentarian Uday Gammanpilla yesterday had been prepared by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe with the intention of exacting political revenge.
Now, at a media briefing held to announce cabinet decisions, the minister said that neither Ravi Senviratne nor Shania Besekra will be removed from their positions as per Uday Gammanpilla's requirements.
Now, he also added that a full investigation into the Easter Sunday attacks is underway, taking into account reports submitted so far. As changes were taking place in the country's political landscape, the Retired Police Officers Collective was formed, targeting the presidential election on the 9th of June, 3 days after the formation of this collective by a political entity. That is, on the 12th of June, President Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed a committee. The committee's mission was to find out if there was any delay, oversight or omission on the part of police officers concerning the Easter Sunday attacks and especially investigate the Vaunathivu incident. The committee, which was established on the 12th of June, was instructed to hand over its report within 3 months, which was by the 15th of September. You all know that the presidential election was held on the 21st of September. The report was submitted on the 17th of September. There is written proof that it was received by the Secretariat on the 18th. Right after the work of this Retired Police Officers Collective began, Sagala Ratnayaka had met with Ravi Senviratne and requested him to step down in order to support their programs. It was against such a backdrop that this committee report had been submitted. The report had mentioned several other names. There were recommendations concerning former IGP Deshabandhu Tennakon and several other individuals. Gammanpilla seems to not have seen any of this. He does not see such things in the reports. How many years has it been since the Easter Sunday attacks. Gammanpilla even held a ministerial portfolio under a previous government. He was later in the opposition. So why is he bringing this up all of a sudden? It is clear whose requirement this is. Ravi Seneviratne has not been found guilty anywhere in the judgment of the Supreme Court. He has not been named as a guilty party anywhere in the Janak De Silva committee report. It is against such a backdrop that this committee report has been put forward. We do not accept these recommendations as they are. I must emphasize that we will not accept this committee report that was submitted by the committee appointed by Ranil Wickremesinghe with the intention of taking political revenge. The committee had been appointed with a former High Court judge who was accused of misconduct and was later appointed for political reasons. Therefore, as a government, we will be launching a brand new investigation looking into all information in all reports submitted so far. We will work towards providing justice to all victims of the attack and establish the rule of law in the country.
අපි මේ අසාධාරණයට ලක් වෙච්ච වින්දිතයන්ට සාධාරණීතු කරන්නත් මේ රටේ නීතිය ස්ථාපිත කරන්න අවශ්‍ය කරන පියවර ගන්නත් වගකීම් සහගතව කටයුතු කරනවා.
සාමාන්‍ය නීතිය මූලධර්මයක් වෙනවා ස්වභාවික යුක්තිය මූලධර්මය කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ අපරාධයකට ළඟින් හරි යන කෙනෙක්ව ඒ තනතුරු වල තියාගෙන නීති කටයුතු කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමා හිතන්නේ නැද්ද මේ පත් කිරීම නොකර මේක ඉවර කරලම ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ ආණ්ඩුවට වෙනත් නිලධාරීන්ව පත් කරලා මේක කරගෙන යන්න තිබ්බා.
Clearly, this investigation was being carried out in an unbiased manner by Ravi Seneviratne, Shani Abesekara and the other teams who were part of the CID at the time. The first thing Gotabaya Rajapaksa did when he came into power was attempting to hunt down Shani Abesekara. It was the political authorities that disrupted the investigation. We will not do so. We will continue the investigations. They are raising all of these questions and making accusations in order to remove Shani Abesekara and Ravi Seneviratne from their positions. We understand that this is Gammanpilla's motive. No. We will not do that. We will not act according to their requirements.
The cabinet spokesman also expressed his views on the chairperson of the committee appointed by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Uday Gammanpilla does not know who has been appointed to this committee. It is embarrassing to see the name of the chairperson of the committee that submitted the report. The chairperson of this committee is former Kegal High Court Judge A.N. Jayakidi Alvis. She had retired on the 17th of September 2023. The report was submitted on the 17th of September 2024. Prior to retirement, she had also made a request for her to be appointed to fill a vacancy in the Court of Appeal. The Judicial Service Commission provided a report in this regard. The report clearly states the observations of the Judicial Service Commission regarding the letter sent to the President by High Court Judge A.N. Jayakidi Alvis or Ardambarage Jayakidi Alvis. In response to letter number 3, the Judicial Service Commission has reported the following. Firstly, it says that Jayakidi Alvis was appointed as a judicial officer on the 1st of July 1998 and her service was terminated on the 27th of April 2000 due to allegations of misconduct that she faced during her tenure. The Commission says that as per an appeal she submitted the same day, approval had been granted for her to tender her resignation on the 4th of June 2000, 6 years after having left the judicial service in such a manner, on the condition that no claims on seniority based on her past services will be entertained. She was appointed as a judge of the primary court on the 1st of June 2006. Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed such an individual who has faced allegations of misconduct during her tenure as the chairperson of this committee.
ප්‍රාථමික අධිකරණ විනිසුරුවරයෙකු ලෙස පත් කර ඇති බවත් විසමාචාර හේතු මත සේවයෙන් ඉවත් කරන ලද කෙනෙක්ව තමයි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්මයා මේ කමිටුවේ සභාපතිවරයා විදිහට පත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
එමෙතුමා දැන් උදේ ගම්මන්පිල මහත්තයා කියනවා ලබන 28 වෙනිදාට දෙවෙනි වාර්තාව එළියට දානවා කියලා. ඒ දෙවෙනි වාර්තාව එළියට දාන්න කලින් මේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාට හරි ඔබතුමන්ලාට හරි බැරි වේද මේ වාර්තාව එළියට දාන්න? ඒ හැකියාවක් තියෙනවද?
ඇත්තටම මේ වාර්තා දෙක මම ඉස්සෙල්ලත් කිව්වේ.
As I said before, these reports are not secret reports. We have no necessity to keep them secret. Why would we do that? We simply did not pay any attention to them. We do not accept those reports. The Colombo Archdiocese announced today that it will not accept the reports of the committee appointed by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe and that were led by S.I. Imam and A.N.J. Dialvis to investigate two elements of the Easter Sunday attacks. Now, addressing a media briefing today, the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, said that these two committee reports have misled the Catholic Bishops' Conference.
This was not addressed to us. It was specifically addressed to His Lordship Bishop Harold Anthony Pereira, the chairman of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Sri Lanka. The document was sent on the 18th September 2024 in a hurry, just 3 days before the presidential election. A letter sent along with it said the document was confidential. Since they were sent as classified and confidential documents, we did not have the opportunity to disclose them. So far, we have not been informed by anyone that they are no longer considered confidential.
විශේෂයෙන් ශානි අබේසේකර සහ රවි සෙනෙවිරත්න මේ නිලධාරීන් විසින් මේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය සම්බන්ධයෙන් මේ විමර්ශනය හරිහැටි කරයි කියන විශ්වාසය ඔබ වහන්සේලාට තියෙනවද?
අපි මේ සම්බන්ධව කතා බහ කරන්නේ ශානි අබේසේකර සහ රවි සෙනෙවිරත්න.
We are not discussing this matter with Shani Abesekara and Ravi Senaviratna. Our request has been directed to the President of the country. We have made our concerns clear to him and he assured us that an independent investigation would be initiated. Therefore, we do not have the right to comment on the individuals he appoints. That responsibility lies with the relevant government ministers and officials involved.
ජනාධිපති කොමිෂන් සභා වාර්තාව අපි පිළිගන්නවා. ජනාධිපති කොමිෂන් සභා වාර්තාවේ අත්‍යවශ්‍ය වශයෙන් ඒගොල්ලෝ දානවා.
We accept the Presidential Commission report. The report highlights that there were individuals who failed to take action to prevent the Easter attacks when there was an opportunity to do so. However, there are shortcomings in the report due to a lack of thorough investigation on certain matters, as noted by the Commission. For example, it appears that they did not have time to investigate the case of Sarah Jasmine, nor did they gather information about someone referred to as Abo Hind. They faced certain constraints in the investigation, and their primary focus was on officials and political leaders who did not act to prevent the attacks. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe formed these committees following discussions with the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Sri Lanka, in which I did not participate. The President appointed those committees to inquire about specific points mentioned in a letter addressed to him from the bishops. However, no one has received the report from the committee led by S.I. Imam concerning Channel 4, and we have not received it either. It seems the intention was to prepare a report quickly, especially before the presidential election. Our conclusion is that these committees were used to mislead the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Sri Lanka into thinking that an investigation was being conducted, which we find to be deceptive. Additionally, during the sessions of these two committees, our legal representatives as well as any external lawyers were not given the opportunity to ask questions related to the proceedings. Therefore, we interpret these two investigations as being conducted in secrecy and influenced by political factors. For these reasons, we cannot accept either report.
අපි අර්ථකථනය කරන්නේ. ඒ නිසා ඒ වාර්තා දෙකම අපිට පිළිගන්න බෑ.
How can we draw any conclusions beforehand? However, we have been given several hints on certain individuals that may have been involved. There are indications that point in a certain direction, but we can't definitely say what those hints mean without conducting an investigation. That is why we urge the need for an investigation.
Spokesperson of the Colombo Archdiocese, Reverend Father Cyril Gamini, also expressed his views attending the media briefing.
ජයකිද අල්විස් හිටපු මහාධිකරණ විනිසුරුවරියව මේ කමිටුවේ ප්‍රධානත්වයට පත් කිරීමත් එක්තරා ආකාරයකින් ගැටලු මතු කරන.
Appointing Jayakidi Alvis, a former High Court judge, to lead the committee raises certain concerns. Judge Jayakidi Alvis is the sister of Inspector Prasanna D. Alvis, who was the head of the Police Terrorism Investigation Division at the time. He has faced allegations of obstructing the investigation into the murder of Lasantha Wickrematunge, the former editor of the Sunday Leader newspaper. Due to his failure to provide reasons regarding these allegations, senior DIG at that time Ravi Senaviratna has reportedly sent a letter to the IGP urging action against Prasanna D. Alvis for not properly executing departmental orders. Senaviratna has also requested the Attorney General to investigate whether there are grounds for criminal charges against him, including evidence tampering and destruction. The current government is responsible for conducting a thorough investigation into the Easter Sunday attacks, assigning this task to Ravi Senaviratna and Shani Abesekara. Furthermore, these officials have also been tasked with re-investigating several political murders, including the Lasantha Wickrematunge case, with the primary responsibility of bringing a offenders to justice. Given this situation, it is evident that appointing Jayake Dialvis, who has family ties to Prasanna Dialvis and faces allegations related to evidence tampering and destruction as the head of this committee, could lead to conflicts of interest. For this reason, we cannot accept any report presented by a committee led by such an individual as unbiased or independent.
ප්‍රධානත්වයේ දරූ කමිටුවක් විසින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන වාර්තාවක් අපක්ෂපාතී සහ ස්වාධීන වාර්තාවක් ලෙස පිළිගැනීමට අපට කොහෙත්ම හැකියාවක් නැහැ.
The Institute for Democratic Reforms and Electoral Studies has revealed that Udaya Gamampila and several others are engaged in a sophisticated scheme to manipulate voters through covert and well-orchestrated election strategies. Now, a statement issued by its Executive Director Manjula Gajanayaka highlights that Gamampila appears to have strategically used a series of incidents that shocked the nation as this sole method to gain an advantage in the upcoming elections.
The Institute for Democratic Reforms and Electoral Studies has raised concerns about Udaya Gamampila's engagement in media campaigns that serve only to capture voter attention without providing any new revelations. A statement released by IRES further refers to similar actions Gamampil has taken in previous elections. It highlights a specific instance from the 2020 parliamentary election where Gamampila and others created deceptive political narratives and sensational media discussions involving a popular doctor from the Kurunagala teaching hospital. Thereby, IRES urges voters to reconsider such actions. The statement further discloses that during the 2020 parliamentary election, one candidate presented family members as candidates from the same household under the independent group number 16, aiming to promote their name across various regions. The list of names is included in the statement where all those names are connected with the family name Gamampila. IRES emphasizes that media organizations should not allow any efforts to disrupt the media space and hinder voters from making informed choices without external influence.
Corruption, fraud and waste are key factors responsible for the current state of our country and the state of her economy. This is something we all know and acknowledge.
However, the question remains how many large-scale thefts have been uncovered so far? And more importantly, where are the culprits? Where are the investigations?
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Remember the FCID? The Financial Crimes Investigation Division of the police was once a beacon of hope for the people of our country. Established on the 13th of February 2015 by a special Gazette notification signed by the then Inspector General of Police, the FCID was empowered to investigate large-scale financial crimes, corruption, unauthorized projects, crimes against public funds and property, illegal accumulation of wealth and abuse of power. The Gazette stated that the FCID could directly investigate serious financial crimes under the supervision of a cabinet subcommittee chaired by the then Prime Minister. Following this, the FCID began its operations with a team of experienced officers, including a Deputy Inspector General and a Director. The FCID investigated over 400 complaints, including the infamous MIG deal, losses from hedging agreement for oil purchases, the controversial Malvana land and luxury house, and the television channel project initiated for sports. Other investigations included transactions through the Divi Naguma program, the Ging Nilwala project, the rice scam, and an incident involving a minister extorting landowners. The FCID also looked into expenses for the Commonwealth Games bid for Hambantota, allegations of financial misappropriation in the Krish project, costs associated with launching a rocket, helicopter trips used in the country's air force before the 2015 government transition, and certain stock market transactions. These investigations revealed significant misappropriation of public funds by a few individuals. However, what happened in the end? Some cases were prosecuted and investigations continued. But with the change of government in 2019, the future of the FCID was decided. On the 8th of January 2020, the then government spokesperson announced the decision to dissolve the FCID, stating it was not a legally established entity. All complaints were to be handed over to the CID, with the Bribery Commission, the police and the CID expected to continue the investigations. The FCID was subsequently disbanded and its skilled officers were reassigned. It remains unclear whether the files were transferred to the CID. The public is well aware of what happened to the investigations initiated by the FCID. Interestingly, the highest ranking officer who served the longest at the FCID is now facing a court case. On the 15th of May, the court granted bail to this former officer, and the case continues. The charges involve the officer holding a position at an institution related to an FCID investigation, with issues also arising from the B report submitted during the investigation. Ultimately, the police division established to investigate serious financial crimes no longer exists, and the people's expectations for justice remain unfulfilled. The hope is that proper investigations will be conducted and those who misappropriated public funds and brought the country to its current state will be held accountable. The files are likely still somewhere, and the dedicated officers who served with integrity are now in different positions. The public's expectation is that these investigations will be revived and justice will be served.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
The Supreme Court today granted permission to name former President Ranil Wickremesinghe as a respondent in the fundamental rights petition filed by the Socialist Youth Union over an attack launched at a protest staged by the union. The petition filed by a member of the Socialist Youth Union, Mahesh Indunil, was taken up in the Supreme Court today.
The petition was taken up before a Supreme Court bench comprising of Justices Esture Raja, Kumudini Wickremesinghe and Priyantha Fernando. Counsel appearing for the petitioner sought the permission of the Supreme Court to name Ranil Wickremesinghe as a respondent in the case. After considering the submissions made, the Supreme Court granted permission to name former President Ranil Wickremesinghe as a respondent. The officers in charge of the Cinnamon Gardens, Maradana and Kompanyavidya police stations have also been named as respondents in the case. The petition states that a protest staged against the anti-democratic conduct of the government on the 22nd of September 2022 was attacked by the police and 6 protesters were arrested. The petition goes on to note that the several arrested protesters were subsequently released on police bail, while 2 of them were released on bail after they were produced in the magistrate's court. The petitioner also points out that his fundamental rights were violated by the conduct of the respondents. The petition goes on to note that the protesters were arrested on the charge of illegally entering a high-security zone, and that as this purported high-security zone has been established in contravention to the law, the arrest of the protesters is also illegal. The petition will be taken up again on the 14th of June 2025.
News First with the people.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
The International Monetary Fund reaffirmed its support for Sri Lanka at the IMF and World Bank Group annual meets in Washington, D.C. Now, Sri Lanka's central bank governor met with the IMF managing director last evening at the IMF head office.
IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva met with Sri Lanka's Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe in Washington, D.C. She was encouraged by the authorities' commitment to continue the reform efforts to safeguard the hard-won gains under the IMF-supported program. She said on X that the IMF remains committed to supporting Sri Lanka build a better future for its people. Sri Lanka's Finance Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana is accompanying the Central Bank Governor. The 2024 annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank Group got underway in Washington, D.C. These meetings will bring together influential leaders from government, business, international organizations, civil society and academia to discuss pressing global issues and shape the future of international economic cooperation.
Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, has met with the Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe. The meeting took place in Washington, D.C., USA. During the meeting, she expressed her commitment to helping build a prosperous future for Sri Lanka.
A delegation including the Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, is currently participating in the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in Washington, D.C. During a meeting with this delegation, Kristalina Georgieva, the Managing Director of the IMF, stated that she appreciates the commitment of Sri Lankan authorities to continue their reform efforts in order to safeguard the hard-earned achievements under the IMF-supported program. She also mentioned in an official statement on X that the IMF would provide continuous support to Sri Lanka for its future endeavours.
Our
delegation, which includes the Central Bank Governor and the President's Economic Affairs Advisor, is currently in Washington. They are engaging in discussions regarding the IMF agreement with a particular focus on the restructuring program for sovereign bond holders. Additionally, they are addressing the progress we have made and highlighting key points that require attention during these discussions. At this moment, these discussions are ongoing and we are actively involved from our end.
Sri Lanka is expected to be removed from the International Monetary Fund's surcharge list of countries.
The International Monetary Fund has announced significant reforms to its surcharge policy, which will benefit several low-income and vulnerable middle-income countries, including Sri Lanka. Loans provided to low-income countries under the IMF's Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust (PRGT) and the Resilience and Sustainability Trust (RST) do not incur surcharges. These trusts help countries build resilience to external shocks and ensure sustainable growth. Currently, 19 out of the 52 member countries borrowing from the IMF's General Resource Account are subjected to surcharges. However, with the new reforms effective from 1st November 2024, this number will decrease to 11. Sri Lanka, along with Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, Georgia, Moldova, Senegal and Suriname will no longer be subjected to surcharges as their credit outstanding will fall below the new threshold of 300% of the IMF quota. For the fiscal year 2026, it was projected that 20 countries would have been subjected to surcharges prior to this review. With the approved reforms, the number of countries paying surcharges is expected to drop to 13. These changes are part of the IMF's efforts to reduce borrowing costs while maintaining its financial capacity to support member countries.
The International Monetary Fund says that the global battle against inflation has largely been won, even if price pressures persist in some countries.
Thank you, Jose, and good morning, everyone.
Pierre-Olivier Gorinches, Economic Counsel and Director of the Research Department of the IMF, presenting the World Economic Outlook, said the prediction is that headline inflation will fall to 3.5% by the end of next year, slightly below the average during the 2 decades before the pandemic.
To 3.5% by the end of next year.
This is a disclosure made by the People's Lawyers Association at a press conference held today.
විශේෂයෙන් ගම්මන්පිල මහත්මයාට ඉතිහාසයක් තියෙනවා මේ වගේ ජිල් මාට් කරලා. මට මතකයි 2008 වර්ෂයේ සිද්ධ වුණා තරුණයන් ඇතුළු 11 දෙනෙකු අතුරුදහන් කිරීම.
Uday Gammampila has a history of doing these sorts of things. I recall a specific incident from 2008 concerning the disappearance of 11 individuals, including several youth. A case was before the Colombo Magistrate Court bearing case number B732/2009, which was filed regarding this matter. During that trial, Gammampila played a key role in seeking justice and his contribution stood out. Let me clarify. In this case, 2 individuals, Shanta Samaravikrama and Ibagamo Pradeep, were abducted in the Kegol area under the guise of being arrested for alleged criminal activities. Initially, it was reported that they had escaped custody and run away, but in reality, they had been abducted. They never ran away. Evidence later uncovered the grim truth. They were taken to a site operated by the Navy known as the gun site, held there and eventually murdered. This was revealed by a Navy soldier soldier. His name was Basnayak Mudiyanselage Vijayakanth. He was also known as Podimalli. Podimalli worked as an intelligence officer in the Navy. This Navy officer had seen Shantha Samaravikrama and Ibagamu Pradeep, who was said to have escaped custody. He had been at this gun site. These two people had written on the wall the name of the place in Kegol and the year, and he had also written on a soap wrapper and handed over this soap wrapper to Basnayak Mudiyanselage Vijayakanth, also known as Podimalli, and requested him to hand it over to their families at home. When these matters were reported to court in 2017, along with evidence, by 2019, Uday Gammanpila came to court to achieve justice and handed over an affidavit of Podimalli to court, saying that they had conducted these investigations in fear of Shania Besekara and that they had provided these statements after being threatened by him. Gammanpila came to court and handed over this affidavit to court in his professional capacity of a lawyer. But he had forgotten the fact that there was a report submitted by the government analyst. In the affidavit, he attempted to say that this soap wrapper was handed over to a person named Velagedra and not to Podimalli. However, this attempt failed as the report of the government analyst clearly showed that this soap wrapper was handed over to Vijayakanth, also known as Podimalli. The evidence provided by Podimalli was consistent with the expert evidence submitted in the case. Therefore, we note that there are deals struck by certain individuals at different times. This is also a result of such a deal, and Uday Gammanpila has a history of doing these kind of things.
මේකත් අපිට තියෙන්නේ ඔය ගහපු ඒ කාලවලදී ඉතින් ඔය දෙන එක එක පුද්ගලයන්ගේ එක එක අපි කියනවානේ ඩීල් ජිල් මාට් කියලා. ඒ ජිල් මාට් එක ප්‍රතිඵලයක් තමයි මේ එළියට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතිහාසයක් තියෙනවා උදේ ගම්මන්පිල මහත්මයාට.
Sajit Premadasa, the leader of the Samagi Jana Balavegya and the Samagi Jana Sandhanaya, said that if his party secures a majority in parliament, they will join the president to amend the IMF agreement. Now, he made this statement during a meeting held in Maliga Kanda today.
After extensive discussions, we said that we will amend this IMF agreement that is against the interest of the people while being within the framework of the IMF. We did not inform the IMF about this recently. We had already informed them about this during several rounds of discussion that we had with them. Therefore, we would like to clearly state that this IMF agreement must change. It must be changed. The Samagi Jana Balavegya hopes to get a majority in parliament and together with President Andhra Kumara Dissanayaka work together for policies that will benefit the country. And the SJB will strengthen the journey that leads to changing the IMF agreement. The Court of Appeal today ordered former Minister Johnston Fernando to provide a statement to the Criminal Investigations Department before anticipatory bail is granted. The court made this order when the anticipatory bail application filed by former Minister Johnston Fernando seeking an order preventing his arrest over the possession of a luxury vehicle was taken up in court today.
The Criminal Investigations Department has launched an investigation over a luxury vehicle suspected to be owned by Johnston Fernando that had been illegally assembled in the country. This vehicle was found while it was parked at a hotel in Colombo recently. An anticipatory bail application filed by former Minister Johnston Fernando seeking an order preventing the police from arresting him over this matter was taken up before Court of Appeal Judge Muhammad Lafar and P. Kumaran Ratnam today. Counsel Amila Palyage, appearing for former Minister Johnston Fernando, said that several statements have been recorded during the investigation and this had given rise to a complex situation regarding the ownership of the vehicle. The counsel informed court that the Criminal Investigations Department had been reporting contradictory facts to court and is attempting to illegally arrest his client. The court inquired as to if the petitioner had used this vehicle, and the counsel for the petitioner informed court that his client had used the vehicle during the run-up to the election. The Court of Appeal raised concerns on how a vehicle with a garage number plate had been used. Appearing on behalf of the Attorney General, Senior Solicitor General Hiranjan Piris pointed out that the petitioner had not provided a statement to the police and that this petition cannot be sustained. The Court of Appeal pointed out that the police can conclude on whether or not the petitioner had committed a wrong only if he provides a statement to the police. The Court of Appeal opined that it would be appropriate to make a statement to the Criminal Investigations Department before the application for anticipatory bail is taken up. Thereby, the counsel for the petitioner informed court that his client is prepared to provide a statement to the Criminal Gang and Intelligence Unit of the Criminal Investigations Department tomorrow.
J. Sri Ranga, who will be contesting the general election as an independent candidate from the Vanni district, convened a media briefing today.
The moment I announced my candidacy for the general election, all media outlets started to report that J. Sri Ranga carried out a certain poster campaign. When looking into this matter, you'd get to know that those who are actually responsible for putting up those posters were arrested 4 months ago. They are prison inmates now. One inmate had said that Ranga is also connected to this incident. Investigations were conducted for 3 months. I request the President and the Minister of Justice to launch another investigation into the injustice that took place at the Mannar Court in 2012. Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya has called on the general public to report any instances of police misconduct, corruption or fraud to a dedicated hotline number, that is 1997. The acting IGP announced that the hotline 1997 has been established at the police headquarters to facilitate the reporting of such incidents. He emphasized that the general public can also use this hotline to provide other relevant information. Up next is our special segment, Crime Watch.
The remains of a person who died under suspicious circumstances was found in the garden of a house in Panadura. The police suspect the incident could be a homicide. The wife of the deceased homeowner filed a complaint with the police yesterday, reporting that her 77-year-old husband was missing when she returned home from work. The woman and her deceased husband were the only people residing in the house. The wife of the deceased in her complaint had said that several household items, including a television and a gas cylinder, had been stolen from the house. The police conducted an investigation yesterday, and during a follow-up inspection today, they found the homeowner's body concealed among several banana trees in the garden. The police suspect that an intruder broke into the residence, committed the murder and hid the body among the banana trees, and had also stolen several household items, including a television and gas cylinder. CCTV footage had captured the suspect carrying away the items stolen from the house.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has addressed media reports suggesting that Sri Lanka did not sign the joint letter supporting the UN Secretary General following the recent declaration by Israel's Minister of Foreign Affairs designating the UN Secretary General as persona non grata.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that in a note verbal dated October 11, 2024, Sri Lanka expressed its intention to be a signatory to the letter supporting the UN Secretary General communicated to the Permanent Mission of Chile in New York, which coordinated the joint letter. It added that Sri Lanka has consistently supported the Palestinian cause and shown solidarity with the Palestinian people over the years, adding that the country has raised serious concerns about the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza at various multilateral forums and has supported calls for an immediate ceasefire. Sri Lanka continues to back the essential humanitarian efforts of the United Nations in the occupied Palestinian territories, including ongoing support for UNRWA. Sri Lanka also strongly condemned the recent attack on UNIFIL's headquarters in South Lebanon, which injured 2 Sri Lankan peacekeepers. Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath, in a statement to the diplomatic corps in Colombo on the 14th October, emphasized the importance of ensuring the safety and security of UN personnel and the inviolability of UN premises. Sri Lanka chairs the UN Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices affecting the human rights of the Palestinian people and other Arabs of the occupied territories, established by United Nations General Assembly Resolution 2443 in 1968. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs Sri Lanka fully supports the joint letter, defending not only the Secretary General but also the UN mandate itself.
The University of Sri Jayawardhanapura hosted a delegation from Zhejiang Shiren University in China, marking the beginning of enhanced international cooperation.
The University of Sri Jayawardenepura successfully hosted a delegation from Shuren University, China in a significant event today, marking the beginning of enhanced international cooperation. The agenda featured an awarding ceremony where honorary professorship was conferred by Shuren University's Vice President to Senior Professor Padmalal M. Manage, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura. Key moments included the signing of a letter of intent symbolizing future collaborations. This visit marks a promising step towards academic collaboration and cultural exchange between the two universities.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have arrived in Russia's Kazan for the 16th BRICS summit.
Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Russia's Kazan for the 16th BRICS summit. A Russian fighter jet was seen escorting Xi's plane. Russian officials greeted Xi at the airport. Guards of honor lined up on both sides of a red carpet to salute the Chinese leader, and Russian youths dressed in national costumes welcomed him with traditional courtesy. This afternoon, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Kazan, Russia to attend the 16th BRICS summit. Later in the day, PM Modi will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin for bilateral discussions. Russian youths dressed in national costumes welcomed him with traditional courtesy. Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to meet with several world leaders in the upcoming days, including China's Xi Jinping, India's Narendra Modi, Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and Iran's Masoud Pezeshkian. BRICS, originally formed by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has expanded significantly this year. New members include Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Malaysia have also formally applied, with other countries including Sri Lanka expressing interest and ready to make the formal submission to join the bloc.
Commonwealth leaders are being urged to work harder to get rid of the barriers and biases that continue to hold back women and girls in the 56 member countries.
This urgent appeal comes from a report that represents the voices of more than 400 delegates, including prime ministers, ministers, women's rights advocates, and business leaders who attended the Commonwealth Women's Forum in Samoa from 21st to 22nd October 2024. The report will be presented to Commonwealth leaders this week to urge strong action on transforming the status of women in government, business, and society.
India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri confirmed that agreements have been made with China over patrolling arrangements on the line of actual control during a press conference in New Delhi on Monday. Now, he added that discussions between Indian and Chinese diplomatic and military negotiators over the last several weeks also led to disengagement and a resolution of the issues that had arisen in these areas in 2020.
Over the last several weeks, Indian and Chinese diplomatic and military negotiators have been in close contact with each other in a variety of forums. And as a result of these discussions, agreement has been arrived at on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas, leading to disengagement and a resolution of the issues that had arisen in these areas in 2020. And we will be taking the next steps on this. As far as the questions on a bilateral meeting are concerned, as you know, and as I said earlier as well, this is a multilateral event, though of course there is always a provision for bilateral meetings on the sidelines. We are currently looking into the overall program of the Prime Ministers. There are a number of requests for bilateral meetings.
Peruvian ex-president Alejandro Toledo has been sentenced to more than 20 years in prison in to become the latest Latin American leader to be jailed in connection with the Odebrecht construction firm corruption scandal.
A Peruvian court on Monday sentenced former President Alejandro Toledo to more than 20 years in prison after he was convicted of accepting millions of dollars in bribes from construction company Odebrecht. The Superior Court accepted the prison term recommended by the prosecution. It announced at a hearing today by Toledo, who was the Peruvian president from 2001 to 2006. Brazilian construction company Odebrecht became synonymous with corruption in its home country and across Latin America, where it paid millions of dollars in bribes to government officials and others between 2001 and 2016. The company has since been renamed Nova Nor. According to prosecutors, Toledo was convicted of taking $35 million in bribes from the Brazilian firm in exchange for letting it win a contract to build a road that now connects Peru's southern coast with an Amazonian area in western Brazil. Toledo has denied the money laundering and collusion charges against him. Monday's sentence was imposed by the National Superior Court of Specialized Criminal Justice in Lima, following years of legal tussles, including a debate over whether Toledo could be extradited from the United States, where he had been living for several years. The ex-president was extradited from the US after he surrendered at a federal court building in California.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.